Everybody is in? Oh, okay, hang on. I just got something jumped up on my screen. There we go. And so I'd like to introduce my better half at yarnspirations.com, and this is Bianca.
Thanks, Mikey. And thank you everybody for joining us for this Michael's community class. Today's class is part of the Great Caron Cake Off, where we'll be adding a bit of extra icing to decorate projects made with Caron Cakes yarns. So like Mikey said, my name is Bianca from yarnspirations.com. And today Mikey will be taking you through how to change the look of the Wavy Crochet Afghan by holding two yarn strands together while you work. So before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that I will be in the chat during the class to help answer any questions you may have. But please note that this class is being recorded. So if you find we're moving a bit too quickly, or if you're feeling the need to go back and watch this class at any point in the future, Michaels will be posting the recorded class within the next 24 hours on michaels.com/classes. So all introductions aside, I will pass it off to Mikey to get started. Thanks.
Hey, and welcome everybody to Michael's online community classroom. I'm your host, Mikey from Nova Scotia. I'm Canadian A, so I do say A, and you will hear that throughout the broadcast because I'm fabulous. So I'd like to introduce the people behind the scenes that make this happen. We have Jimena all the way from Mexico City, and she is here on board, and she's representing Michael's today. And we have Bianca, my better half at Yarnspirations, which is kind of my boss, so that's fine, but she's fabulous and we both talk numbers. Woo! Yes, so we have a great team behind the scenes to make all of these online workshops a lot of fun. And today we're actually going to get ourselves involved with where we're going to take an idea that is not new. So when I thought I created it years ago, I'm like, I'm brilliant. Meanwhile, I'm not brilliant. I'm just saying that it was just kind of one of those things. So I'll tell you a quick backstory. So you know me and my story. So I learned to crochet when I was 14 with my mom, and I got really bored of the double crochet. And so my next Afghan that I wanted to do was a granny square Afghan. And my grandmother had just moved into the house temporarily, and my mother was just like using up all this spare yarn. And so she would buy it and then go to the Salvation Army and etc. So we grew up in pretty poor conditions when we grew up, and which is fine. It makes you a better person, makes you appreciate things a lot more. So a lot of the Afghans and stuff that my mom would make, quilts and stuff, would be our own clothes. So your corduroy pants would end up turning into your quilt later on in the years to come. And it was always the best Afghans, never a color scheme. So they were, you know, to somebody that likes coloring and stuff. Honestly, it's one of those things that people pay extra for now because it's so random. And so they were always the warmest ones. We would have a hot water bottle in our beds at nighttime because the wood stove would try to be heating up the house. So, and then we only had 2 television stations. I know that's crazy enough. So when I was 14, I learned to crochet and I could not afford to buy yarn. So I lived a paycheck to paycheck with my part-time job. But my mom had all this spare yarn, and I was like, you couldn't make anything with it. So if I wanted all red, it's never going to happen. And I realized in my first Afghan that it was light. So I'm here in Canada where, you know, where we pet our polar bears and stuff as pets, and, you know, the penguins are like, instead of parrots. And so the whole idea is that I looked at that and I thought, if I could just put 2 strands together, it would be kind of better because then I would have a more warmer Afghan. So if you know me, all this color matching, I don't have the gift. When I came out of the closet, I thought I'd drink wine and have the color palette as my best friend. It didn't happen, okay? So this is one of those things where I took one strand from one ball, one strand from another, and all the balls were like mini balls. Girls, we like our big balls, right? Have you seen those anniversary cakes? I know. I almost slipped on my own self walking down the aisle with those big balls. You know, orgasm kind of idea. So my point being is that the small balls were not enough to get anywhere. So I realized that if I just kept grabbing, I had the most random looking Afghan you ever did see. But what I figured out is that when one ball changes, I don't change the other ball right away, and the colors kind of overlap to each other. So I'm going to show you some examples of something like that. So a very popular basket right now, so let me hold this up for you, is the Marled basket. This is using 2 balls of Caron big cakes, and when you cross them over with each other, because the yarn changes on its own, you can see how one color bleeds into another, and before that color takes away and goes off. If the balls happen to match each other at the same time, you end up with an idea like that. So my point being is that it could be very random. So you'll never see another basket like this. You may see that band further around, might be even on the bottom for all you know. So I thought that was kind of cool. And we also did earlier this year, it came as a recommendation. So this is a marled tote. So you can see that the one color is going throughout the whole thing, but I changed the secondary color so it has the bleed over. Now, anybody remember the dot matrix printer? When you're up close to something like this, like, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I ever saw. You know, go farther back, farther back, farther back. It actually works. So it's one of those ideas that you have to be open-minded in some way, unless you want to really do something. So this particular blanket that we have here as the sample today, I thought, to my point of view, when I am watching TV at nighttime, I like to put a pillow on my chest, and it just, I don't know why it relaxes me, but I think it's the weight that does that. And so some people request that we do weighted blankets when you have the power to do it yourself. And the fabulous thing about Caron cakes is that I end up with all these deflated balls. Girls and boys, do we like deflated balls? No, not these kind of deflated balls. But what do you do with it, right? So my point being is that you could actually use your deflated balls and kind of work through the colors and create the most coolest looking blankets that are so ugly that you just have to have one, right? So I took an idea of all the Caron cakes. My favorite cake of all is, I know, wait for it. It is the red velvet. I love this yarn. I love the colors. I like how it works. And so I've done a whole blanket like this called the hypnotic blanket. You'll find that on the crochetcrowd.com. And I thought, to my point of view, I love this so much. What happens if I get 2 of these balls and I just have them so that they don't start at the same spot, so that they marl over? Do you want to see? So I'll show you what it looks like. So I worked on this a couple weeks ago, but Michael's was sold out. So anyway, I had to order online, but that's okay because it came. So anyway, this is just a mini example of what that looks like when you use 2 balls at the same time. So coming further back, so you can see that both balls happen to meet up at the same color here, but then went in their own direction and then happened to meet up here again. Right? Isn't that cool? So you think that Caron cakes is already addictive. You marl this stuff up, you will not get your eyes off your balls, because you're going to be like, when's the next color coming? When's the next color coming? And you just find that you're just going to hook yourself into midnight. Oh no, pop out that popcorn and put on a good Netflix and let's go. So I love marling because it can actually be really cool. You can create the most ugliest things too, but that's okay. It's fun. And that's what we're going to be getting ourselves involved with today. So did you know that Michaels is giving away 500 balls of yarn? So Humana, can we go down to the table? So we're going to go straight on down through this camera. There we go. Look at this. So here I am up here. And they're giving away 500 balls of yarn. Okay. 500. So what would you do with, in the comments, what would you do with 500 balls of yarn? It doesn't come with a spare room or extra set of hands, but can you imagine being everybody's best friend, or they're pretending to be your best friend if they know that you get 500 balls of yarn? I know, isn't that the craziest thing? So when I heard that, I thought they were like crazy. So this would be a really kind of fun. So all you have to do is that you just have to send Michaels a photograph of your finished project in Caron cakes with something extra added. So maybe you can take an existing pattern. Maybe you've already crocheted something with Caron cakes, right? And you added like fringe or pom-poms or anything. And all you got to do is send them a photo. You only have one time to enter it though, so make it good. It's completely random from what I understand, because there's too many people that have too much creativity on their hands that can totally kick my butt in creativity. So it is completely random. So if you're looking for that, they also have the free recipe book. So they have the 8 designs here. This that we're doing today is part of that. So if you're wanting more free patterns, you got to check this out. So we did some fun stuff. So earlier this season, we just did the blues sampler blanket using the big Caron anniversary cakes. Have you ever seen such big balls in your life? It's like, oh my God, I just have to have it. You just got to just feel it up and everything. So it's one of those ideas that I think is pretty cool, and it's really quite awesome. So if you're looking for that, it's a great idea. So we have to cover what I believe is an error in the pattern. I know what you're saying. Oh my God, already? We're just starting. So one of the things with being a tutorial host is that you can't fake it on camera. It's one of those things that you can just like, you can blog about it, but you can't fake it. So the chain count is technically 170, my friends, is 170. If you want to write that down on somewhere, 170 is your chain count. And there's an error in row number 1. And it states in here, and we'll cover this in more detail, but it says chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. The 3 double crochet in the next stitch is in the same stitch as that chain 3. And that's all that's wrong with this particular pattern. So a revision has been submitted for this in order to get this to go. And it's actually pretty cool. So you can see how it will look if it's one ball, but what if this is marled? You would have a completely different look with this, and also the weight of this particular Afghan. So Bianca is behind the scenes. Bianca, is there any questions at this moment behind the scenes?
We're just having some questions around the deadline and stuff for the contest, but otherwise I think we're good to kind of get started.
Do we know what that deadline date is?
Yeah, it is October 10th. So you have until the 10th of October to get those photos. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And remember that you could just be a hat too, just to get in the contest for the 50. And there's more other prizes. I think there's 4 other prizes of 50 balls too. So on the crochetcrowd.com on the homepage, you're going to see that particular Afghan. It's called the Wave Afghan, and you'll see it on the idea. One of the things about being a tutorial host is that I have to be able to communicate to you what to do. So as I learned crochet as a kid, I thought that all crochet patterns have a diagram. So I create these diagrams, and when I'm reading behind the camera and I'm teaching you on thing, I'm not looking at the instructions because my old eyes, I can't see that too well. But so what I do is I create these mini diagrams, and you're going to be able to download that. And this already has the correction in it that we talked about. So if you want to get this diagram, it's on the crochetcrowd.com, and it is there today. So one of the questions that we always get with these kind of concepts is like, Michael, I don't want the size of the blanket. I want to do a king size because I have a California king. And the whole idea of that, so what we try to do is to answer those questions. So the Yarn Inspirations designers have been doing a great job of being able to tell us what those multiples are. So if you would like to change the size of this blanket, maybe you want somebody for a wheelchair, maybe a baby blanket, maybe even bigger, it's in multiples of 14 plus 2. Now, for those that don't know what that means, it means that you continue to count. So I go 1 to 14, 1 to 14, 1 to 14. And then when you're happy with the width of it, you add the 2 at the end, and that will bring you into balance. So this will sit in the balance. And that's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through this particular diagram as we're going to go today, but I'm going to be marling with 2 of the ugliest yarns that you ever did see, because I'm just one of those queens. If you want to come back up to me, Humana. There we go. So I'm going to take 2 deflated balls, and you're like, those colors don't even go together. Isn't that delicious? You have no idea what it's going to look like. So basket weave pillow, doing this kind of concept. I've done it before. Fabulous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 of these balls, and I've already got my ends coming out of the outside here. And so what I want to do, when I'm going to marl, and we'll go back to, oh yes, thank you. And later. So what I want to do is that I want to treat, well, yeah, you're down here. So what I want to do is that I want to treat these balls as if this is one strand of yarn. Now, this is called marling because there's 2 completely different yarns in play. There are some products out there, like It's a Wrap by Red Heart, where it's already marled for you, and you see that the color transition is jumping, and it's already done. This, you get to control your own colors. So let's begin. So because I'm going to be increasing the hook, increasing the thickness, because this means I have double thickness in my hands, and I like thick yarn, so it's kind of fun to play with. But what I want to do is that I want to increase my hook. So the original size here stated that it was a 5mm. So I went to a 6.5mm size K to compensate for using 2 strands at one time. So what I want to do is that when I go to play with it, I want to pretend that they're together. I'm not worried if they start spinning in circles or anything, because that's the whole charm of this whole thing. And I'm going to crochet in multiples of 14. So I will do 2 multiples of 14, and then I will add 2. So if you want to take a moment, if you're playing along, to do that. So how did I decide to do this size? So how I decided that is just I have experience of what thicker yarn kind of feels like on a hook. So a lot of my hook sizes I technically use around a 5mm or a 5.5. So in American that would be H and I. But because this is 2 strands, I went all the way to a size K crochet hook here at 6.5mm. So let me just do my 2 multiples of 14. So the topic is crochet. Well, I'm counting quietly to myself. So 1, so I have 1 set of 14. Is it big enough? Yes or no? If not, keep on going. So I start back at 1 again. So 1. Sorry, I started daydreaming, so I counted I counted all the way to 16. So once I have my 14 here, so I have 1 14 and another 14, I'm just going to add 2 to have the balance, so at least the waves will sit within each other. So what I want to do is I want to look back to the diagram that we're going to do. And the diagram, is anybody not familiar with these? Because I love these things, because you don't need to know a word of English for these things. They go across borders, because as long as you know what the symbol means, it's pretty awesome. So the plus sign is the single crochet, and then the T with the cross in the middle of it, across the middle of it, is a double crochet. So what I can do is that this here is exactly what we want, but in a diagram format. So if you wanted to change your colors, you could just look at this and say, I'm going to keep all my waves a certain color, and then I'm going to do everything else, whatever. So in order to start, so we're going to go second chain from the hook, and we're just going to single crochet ourselves all the way across the chain before we start row number 2. So what I want to do is go second chain from the hook. Now, the best way, when my mom taught me to crochet, she didn't tell me about this back loop stuff. I call it the back hump of the stitch, but some people say it's improper, but I don't care. So I want to look, and I want to go second chain from the hook. So 1 and 2, and turn it over and get the back hump of the chain. It reminds me of the Loch Ness Monster for those that are in Scotland. And what it does, once you get the first one, it looks like the spine of the Loch Ness Monster coming out of the water. And what this will do is it'll give you the most perfect edge you ever saw. Because when my mom taught me, I always had one side of the blanket that looked like crap. So what this is doing, by going in the back hump, the other side looks identical to this side, right? So you can play with that. The only time I don't suggest you doing that is if it's like Bernat blanket. It doesn't work so well when it's on Bernat blanket on the bigger, thicker yarns, but it works like a charm with this kind of everyday yarn that I love here. So I'm going to work my way as a single crochet across. And is there any questions at this moment, Bianca, as a single crocheting across?
Sure, yeah, we're just wondering if, so if you're using 2 strands together, how does that work with yardage? Are you using now for the blanket 8 balls altogether?
Yes, so I'm doubling it up. Okay. So then I'll have double the weight of the ball. So if you want to hold, like, say the blanket has like 6 balls, if you hold that weight and then added more 6 balls to your hands, you'll get a sense on how heavy it will be when you do that.
Awesome.
Now, what I would recommend to you when you're jumping from ball to ball, so say one ball finishes out, I try to, on the next ball of the same colorway, try to start it at the same spot so that it looks like it's blending. And sometimes you have to pull apart the ball in order to get that, but then you can use that other yarn that you'll be putting on the side, you'll use it later. So you never waste anything. But I can already feel this is so thick in my hands, I'm loving it. So I like being able to grasp onto thick things, like in crochet. I think I've crocheted so much in my life that my hand dexterity is not so fine as it was. So I like when the hooks have a big hook, has a big handle, and that there's more to hold in my hands just for dexterity reasons. So I know you may think I was being perverted for a moment. Maybe I was, but not today. So I'm just single crocheting myself all the way across, and then we'll go back to the diagram in just a second. So I'm coming right to the end. Did you notice I didn't count? I don't need to. I'm going to trust in myself. So here we go. So I'm going to lay it down. So look at the colors. So you got two different balls completely. It's neat. It's neat. It reminds me of ice cream. So let's go back to here. So in row number 1 here, so this was the foundation row to get ourselves started that we just did. So row number 1, we're going to immediately chain up. Let me get close here for you. We're immediately going to chain up 3. And then we're going to put 3 double crochets coming out of that same one. So you're going to go exactly where this is coming out of and place it in. How many stitches are we going to skip, right? So we can skip 1, 2, 3 because the next single crochet is not here. So we're going to skip 3. So this falls over and then you're going to single crochet the next 7. Here's the trick. There's always going to be 7. So if you want to write on your sheet that that's 7 and 7, you'll always remember that 7. 7 is the magic number here. How many of these do you see? 7. So 7 is the magic lucky number today. So what I want to do is do that. Now, a question came through, do you want, can you use different weights tomorrow? Absolutely. You can use different textures of yarn. You can be really, really creative with this idea. Okay, so let's follow the diagram. So what I want to do is that I want to chain 3, and that's going to count as a double crochet. Now, it's stated in the pattern in the original, it says go to the next stitch and do it. No, just stay right where you are, and right where it's coming out of, I want you to put in 3 more double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. So how many technically are there? If the double crochet, or if the chain 3 counts as 1 and there's 3, how many stitches do you officially have? If you've answered 4, please go help yourself to some cookies. You deserve it. So I am using a 6.5mm size K crochet hook. So I want to skip 4 stitches because that's what the pattern says. So 1, 2, 3, go to the 4th, and then how many single crochets am I going to do? It's Mickey Mouse's favorite number. When he killed, how many flies did he kill in one slap? Anybody know the answer to that? Mickey Mouse killed a number of flies, and he was bragging about it. How many flies was it? It's the same number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So make sure that you do grab both strands. So if you drop one, it might matter later. So I've got 7. So how many do I need to skip in order to do the next grouping of 7 double crochets to create the half moon? If you said 3, that's the right answer. So I'm going to skip 3. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do 7 into the next one. And this is going to create a half moon. So using in crochet, a lot of these shells are either 5s or 7s. Sometimes could be up to 9, but 7 is usually a standard number. And it really doesn't matter, does it? Too much, but it all works out in the end. But 7 is the magic number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're officially going to skip 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to start single crocheting again, right? So what is, how many stitches I'm skipping is going to be 3. How many single crochets am I going to put in there? So 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is my own personal tip. So this is why you're here today. Now, I can see yourself, how in the hell am I ever going to watch television and count to 7 and keep up with the plot line? I have trained my eyes over time to look at this grouping of 7 in 2 parts. My eyes immediately see 3, and then my eyes immediately see the grouping of 4. So I just go 3, 4. You see that? So instead of me counting, I just look at it and say 3, 4. Does that make any sense to anybody? This is just one of those things that helps me to be able to speed along, where if you can train your eyes, and I also do the same here. If this is 7, I see 3, and then I see 4. And because saying that I see 7 doesn't make any sense, but if I can break it out like that, it speeds me along. I'm not a fast crocheter, but I know tricks that help me to be able to learn, right? So what I want to do is that we're coming up to the edge. So you would just do the 7 and then jump, skipping 3, and then doing this wave, and then skipping 3 and then 7. And you'll do that all the way across. But eventually, my friends, the party will come to an end and you'll be at the end. And do you see that the stitch count is right? That means that the instructions I'm giving you for the corrections are proper. So 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go into the very last stitch, and the last stitch is going to have how many? It's not 7. Susan said it's 4. So we have here, so 4 is the magic number. So 3 is kind of like the one side of the wave, and then the 4th one is the middle one of the group of 7, if that helps you to know that. I don't want to feed you too much information today. So you're going to do that. So when you lay it out here, I cannot wait for a color change, but you know what? My color change is so far away. I want to just, so what I'm going to do, this is not cheating, but what you can do is say, you know what, I am so anxious. I am just going to just pretend that I am going to say it's marling. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to change the yarn, and I'm going to put the god-awful's knot in there, but actually maybe not. So what if you wanted to plan this properly? Okay, let me show you. So the next row here, if we look at it here, every other row is a non-thinker. So if you look at the next row, you're just doing a single crochet in every stitch all the way across. And row number 4 is the same way. So you got 2 rows of non-thinking, right? And then you got 2 rows that you just got to manipulate where those waves are. So let's, for example, my grandmother's ball just ran out. So this is what I would have done as a kid, and I'll show you. So one strand is about to run out, and so I'm just going to grab another ball. So it's the same one, but don't tell anybody. It's our secret today. So I'll start off the next section, and so it's just chain of 1 and go 1 single crochet in each. And I'm going to show you how I did that. So what I want to do is I want to leave a long enough tail here so that I can put this into to a tapestry needle. I don't want to create a slip knot if I don't have to, but I get paranoid, so I create a slip knot. So what I'm going to do is that when I go to single crochet the next stitch, I pull through everything like this, but I'm going to slide this on, and I'm going to grab the other color. And so instead of picking up both colors, the one's already on, and I'm just going to grab that and treat them as if they're together and pull it through. And I'm going to lay the stragglers down on top of the line underneath. And so I'm going to go over those stragglers so they get stuck up underneath the stitches. But if you get paranoid and tails start falling out, you can always throw them through a tapestry needle. And we have videos on how to do that and on how to fasten off your ends. So I'm going right up over top of there. So it's not through the back. See, it's being completely covered. So what I'll do is I'll leave those out now, and I can take that through a tapestry needle later. So I'm technically on just a non-thinking single crochet row. Any questions at this moment, Bianca?
I think we're all just in awe of this awesome tip you've just given. I'm taking notes for myself.
Oh, stop it.
No, this is awesome. Everyone hates ends.
Oh. Now, how many people actually like to have their ends at the end of the project? I like to deal with them as I'm going, because there's nothing more disappointing is that you're finished and you're excited and you got like a million ends to tuck in. So I'm a tucker as a goer. So who tucks and who procrastinates that step at the end? Are you a procrastinator or are you a tucker, Bianca?
I didn't know about tucking, but I will be a tucker. I've been a procrastinator. No, I've always been weaving in my ends at the end, like, yeah.
Oh.
Which also sometimes in my sweaters, I just have ends hanging on the inside that I've never bothered to weave in. So
if you're joining us today, remember that that chain 3 is a stitch. Don't ever go into a space. Treat that chain. So people that are new to crochet forget that, and they end up with triangle Afghan. So if you were looking for a triangle Afghan, pretend that that doesn't exist, and you'll end up with the perfect triangle. But remember to go right into the actual chain itself. Never go into a space so it doesn't open up and have the most ugliest side that you ever did have. And then we're going to turn and lay down. So what you can do, if you tucked and you're confident that you don't need to do this with the tapestry needle, which I probably wouldn't, you can look, it looks like it was intentionally changing in the ball. So you can manipulate things because you are the master of the universe. So what we have here is that we have the pattern. And so we're now going to go to row number 3. So all we're doing is that we're shifting this fan so it's in the middle. So if there's 7 here, it always has to land on the 3rd one coming in. But you don't need to worry about that so much. You'll see it. So these 7 are going to appear like they're sitting on top of these other fans that are already there. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So when we go to start, we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to single crochet the first 3. We're still going to jump our 3, and then we put our 7, still skip our 3, and then do 7 singles. And so you will notice is that you have 3 rows of single crochet that do this, which is awesome. And then the fan eventually breaks it up, which I will demonstrate as well. So let's begin to do this step. So we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to single crochet into the first 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to skip 3, and I'm going to go to the 4th. This 4th one should appear in between the 2 fans, and that's where we're going to go. So I'm getting better at making those diagrams. I'm going to be a diagram guru. So I'm writing a book for next year, and so I'm trying to train myself how to do those a better job, because I do the ugliest diagrams you've ever saw. So you have to hand draw all those shapes by yourself and then put them in. But once you do one, you can at least copy it and drag it over, right? So, anyway, so I got a group of friends together that are not designers, and yeah, so it's going to be a fun little book. So we have some great patterns coming out. So, so we have 7. So remember what I said: 3 and 4, 3 and 4. So we're going to skip how many stitches at this point? Are you paying attention? How many stitches are you going to skip? 3. Who said 3 immediately? And so we're just going to do how many in a row then? 7. Do you notice how the 7 sits on top of the other fan that's sitting there? Isn't that brilliant? So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to slam in the stitches. If you feel like you need to count, then count. Nobody's judging you, and if they are, they have nothing better to do in their lives. So, okay, so we're going to do 7. So I'm going to glance. I see 3. I see 4. I possibly see dead people. I am kind of crazy if you didn't know. So what we have here is that we are going to do another fan. Okay, do you see how they're falling in line with each other? Isn't that kind of cool? It's so circus-like. I just love it. So you're gonna skip 3, and then you're gonna go to the 4th. And how many are we gonna do? Get that 7 key ready, girls and boys. And we're gonna do 7. Now, I did the most ugliest knitted blanket on a loom knitting thing, you know, one of those S looms, and I picked up every ugly possible color, and when it was done, people were like literally wanting to give me money for my blanket, and I'm like, it's so ugly, but it was so fantastically done and so random that if I ever tried to duplicate it, it would never be as good the second time. So remember what I'm looking at? 3 and then 4. Do you see that? And so how many am I going to skip? I'm just going to skip. I'm going to skip 3. And so if there was 4 on this edge when I started, there should be how many on this edge? If you said 4, that's the right answer. Isn't that fun? Kid blanket right here. This is for the mother-in-law you really don't like, and you want to screw up her whole color scheme in her house. This is the one. We all have them. So some of you are very lucky to have really good mother-in-laws, but Okay, so what we have here is that we're going to go on to the next row. So this here, the next row, is a non-thinker row. It's single crochet. Every other row is a non-thinker. So this is when you can look up and you can finally get what's going on television, where you finally realize what the characters look like. And I don't know, I've heard more television in my life. And then when Daniel watches a subtitle one, which he did the other night, I was like, I'm screwed. So I have no idea what's going on. So the thickness is great for pet beds. I've heard people doing this and donating blankets for like animal shelters and stuff. And then the blanket ends up going with the pet or with the animal to their new home afterward as the scent, so that they have some kind of comfort. So I know people that do that. And so this would be a really great concept. Now, we recently got a dog. Oh my God, my friends. This thing, I'm telling you, it's cute when it wants to be, but I always thought those footprints in the kitchen floor, when you see somebody just mop the floor and you see some dog prints, I'm like, that never happens. Honey, that happens. I think it's easier just to put the sale sign up on my house. Okay, either that or kick Daniel out with the dog, with the mop and bucket, and say, you're out of here. So you can hear me not counting because I'm not. So I just an easy row where you can yap at somebody and then you can turn. Look at that. So marling with 2 cotton cakes, you can, oh my God, cotton cakes would be fabulous. So let me just demonstrate again. So we're going to just manipulate something else. And I'm just going to take the other ball and just say, well, okay, because the addiction is strong, my friends. It's like the force. It's really strong within people. And so I'm going to just yank out some more yarn. So I'm going to say, oh, this color happens to be done, when it's not, because nobody knows. And so I'm going to start the next one. And so the next one, when we go to restart, it's repeating a rows number 1 through 4. So I look back to number 1 and we start here again. So all this blanket is, my friends, is just repeating rows number 1 through 4, right? And so we got to really think about, you know, who's going to use something like this? I just saw, I think somebody's saying for the homeless. You know, you can also just think about people out in the cold, just people that have a cold house. It's a great idea. So we're going to start off and we're going to chain 3, which counts as your first double. And then we're going to put 3 more in there. But oops, I'm running out of yarn. So I'm going to start my stitch and I want to grab my new color that I just pretending that I have. So you can change colors at any point. So if you really don't like the color being changed in mid-row, you could just kind of manipulate it so that you come to the end and change it at the end too. But have some fun with it. Like really, like creativity is so exciting. So I want to take the new one plus the yarn I'm still working with and pulling it through and then finish it and then lay down the stragglers and catch them under. So when I go to lay them down, I want to go right up over top of these 2. And get them underneath that stitch. But I want to go for like 2 inches. So if I do the first 4, so the chain 3 plus the 3 double crochet, there's your 4. So I'm going to skip 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and I could just lay that down and just go right up over top of it and then go up over the next 7. If that bothers you, because you might be able to, actually you do see that. So what you can just do is that you just pull that out and just throw it through a tapestry needle. But because I would do a tapestry needle for sure. So just sliding it through. And of course, here in the studio, I don't have one here with me. But what you want to do is you want to take these stragglers and put it through and go through the work 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and it will never fall out on you. And once you do that, you can safely cut it down like this, but make sure you do that first, and then you'll never see it. So I'm going up over top, and it's 7 in a row. Is there any questions, Bianca?
Just wondering, so you said to chain 3 at the end of the row on the turn.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know why they do that.
Okay.
Honest to God. I don't know why some designers do that. And it doesn't make a difference. I don't think it makes a difference. Anybody agree with that or not? So what's Mikey's last name? If you like me, it's Selleck, but if you don't, my name's Porter. Okay, Michael Porter. So, Selleck is in Tom Selleck is my last name. If you're that anxious to look me up, and you can find us in the crochetcrowd.com. But I don't have his mustache, so because everybody loves his mustache. So you're gonna just skip over 3 and then single crochet the next 4. Have you seen those mustache pillows on yarnspirations.com? Oh my God. I almost did a blog yesterday. This is so inappropriate. I said, who's gonna sit on that pillow? Anyway, never mind. Anyway, for some of you, you probably get what I was talking about. So kind of bad in many ways. So anyway, so you get your 7, and then finally at the end, you're gonna skip 3 and then put your 4 at the end. So yeah. Anyway, just things that, like, who's gonna expect a mustache pillow underneath the Christmas tree? Nobody. So, okay, so we did that. So now that if I just did a wave, I have a non-thinking row. So you can see how the color is transitioning, right? It changes. So even though this is the same color here and there, it's got a different hue to it. So as the balls change, you end up with the coolest stuff. So now I have a non-thinking row. Okay, any other questions, Bianca?
So we're wondering if you would ever use the end, instead of kind of laying it down, would you ever kind of incorporate it into your stitch instead? Does that work the same, or?
Laying what down?
When you're laying down your tail.
Okay,
when you're
so I
switching
used
colors.
to do that, but it thickens up the stitch. It's almost like when you stab a worm, right? And then it ends up with the big fat section of a worm. You ever seen that?
Is that where those come from?
What's that? Is it dew worm? You know, when you chop a dew worm in half, it grows back, and then where it's trying to repair itself, it's extra thick.
Oh, you're teaching me so much about the world.
Oh, there's nobody. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I find that's what happens if you try to use it as part of the stitch. You'll end up fattening up your worm. I don't know. Honestly, who's judging anyway, right? So anyway, so that's kind of what we have going on here. So it's a very, very easy pattern to be able to maintain. Honestly, if you know the numbers of 3 and 4 and 7, I think you're good to go. So fattening up your worm is certainly what? Somebody said this. Never mind. I see Bianca smile. I'm not going to ask. I didn't see the full comment.
Fattening up your worm is certainly not something I expected to hear today from Vicky.
Yeah. Right here at michaels.com. So, so this is a really cool pattern to be able to work with. So you can see how it changes. Now, if you're a person that likes to do structure with changing of this kind of concept, you can use the same color ball and thicken up and to make that, right? So this is the nice thing about this. So if you want the weight of this and you want color play to actually be real, you can actually use the same color, but use 2 different balls, and you can thicken up your ball or thicken up your project with that, right? So that's kind of what we have. So this is a fabulous opportunity to go through your Caron cakes and to see what you have, because, you know, there's spouses in our lives and our friends that, you know, all judge us for big yarn collections. You know what, they really do seriously need a life. But this is a great way to be able to do something that is awesome. It's a great charity box builder. And if you think you can do this with that, you got baskets. The basket weave pillow that we have on the crochetcrowd.com has been done like this. Phenomenal. It really honestly is phenomenal. So you can choose a lot of different patterns that you want. Some patterns don't look good as marled, but this one I definitely think it can be because the way the waves are working. Now, when you're getting out to the width of a blanket like this, it's going to change a lot sooner. So you're going to see that happening within this because there's more distance to go. The wonderful thing about this, and maybe you didn't know this, is that the design team at Yarnspirations has calculated how much footage in the ball or the yards in the ball for the colors. So you will notice that in the Caron cake patterns available on yarnspirations.com, they give a certain width because the designer has considered the length of the yarn before it changes color. And so it's optimized so that it changes color at almost the right spot. It's not a miracle. I know. Sometimes I feel like it is, but it's actually been planned in that way so that it changes in a way that it's not so obvious. And if you're like me, sometimes the color change is just completely at the most wrong spot ever possible. And you know it in real time. It's never going to get out of your head. You're always going to see it. So what I would think about doing if I were you and you were me, and you say, you know what, I really don't want that color to change here, go grab a secondary ball and just pull out that same color that you're going to do, just change it and just get yourself to where you need to go, right? And that's what I would do if it were me. So there's some particular examples out there where, you know, you see the swatch of it, it's like, God, why does the color change there? But if you have a secondary ball, you can force it so that you can have it so it'll look awesome. And don't think that they don't do that. There's a pattern on yarnspirations.com where they have this beautiful speck of color. I'm like, okay, that never came out of the ball that way. So what they can do is that they actually pull apart different balls and say, I really want to finish this color here. So they'll pull apart this ball, use that, and then get it to look right. It happens, and that's part of being creative. So that's kind of a neat. Is there any other questions right now? So hopefully this makes sense. You really thicken up your projects, and I'm really super excited about my my velvet one. Now that you see it done, so the two balls that I had, the two balls happen to hit the same color at the same time. It looks fantastic. And then I'm like, it's going to hit this color, and I bet next time it's going to hit the lighter gray when it does it. So I'll end up with these bands of color that are completely unplanned, but look amazing. So that's kind of my words of wisdom for today. So if you would like to follow along, we have a cardigan that's being released tomorrow on thecrochetcrowd.com as far as a video. We've been having a video a day for the last couple weeks. So if you're interested in learning more, all of our videos and our patterns are free to access. They're just sitting there waiting for you if that's something that you are interested in. So a lot of anything that you see that I'm holding up or whatever is usually a free pattern available by yarnspirations.com. Sometimes it's by Michaels too. And in this case, it's on the Michaels website in order to access this bad boy here. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the ball, but just the same ball. So I hopefully that you've learned something today. It's actually been a lot of fun. And maybe enter in the Caron cakes, maybe what you can do with 500 friends. You know how many stocking stuffers you can do with 500 balls of yarn? I know. So if you're looking for something like that, just take a look and share it with your friends, because if you don't win, maybe your friend will. So here's going to be a tease of 500 balls. So here we go. Right. So you can find that over at michaels.com if you're interested in that. Bianca has provided the link. Is there any final questions, Bianca, today?
I think that's really it. We're just providing the link to everybody there in the chat, and seeing a lot of praise here. Sounds like this was a great class for everybody.
Okay, class. So next time you see me, I think I'm back next Saturday. And so what I'm going to do is a whole shawl concept workshop. I did a whole workbook for you. Well, if you consider 4 pages of workbook. But anyway, so I did I've done a whole workshop for you that you'll be able to have access to. And what we're going to do is we're going to dissect the whole idea of adding borders and just picking a random sort of borders that you have for adding shawls, just in case you would like to do that. And just to be able to kind of pick and know what to look for. And we're going to be doing that as well. As far as starter classes, you can find those available on thecrochetcrowd.com for beginners. We have a whole playlist there. And so then I go really slowly with the hook and the yarn. And when I say slowly, I don't mean it in a condescending way, but I go really slowly. So I don't treat every video like it's brand new crocheters because I've been around for 12 years. I know, been around the block. That as I grow, so does the community. So we have a combined audience of 2 million crocheters, if you can imagine. And so with that, we try to bring everybody together, and we try not leaving anybody behind. So if anything went over your head today, that's okay. Just go grab a pop or something, like some cookies, and come and see me over at thecrochetcrowd.com. Go over to Yarnspiration or to YouTube, to thecrochetcrowd.com as well. And then we have that information for you there, and you can start at any time. And we go through, I call it pattern foreplay. So what we do is that we look at the pattern before we start in the video, and I point out a few things, and then we just say, okay, you're looking for this and this and this, and then the video goes in sequence. sequence for that. And if I'm going too fast, you can slow me down. So that's kind of a neat thing. So that's going to be it for today. On behalf of my friends over at Michael's, the online community workshops that we're doing classrooms today, thank you so much for the invite. You'll see me back here next week as we begin again. And it is the Caron Kickoff, and we hope one of you win 500 balls. Remember, I'm your best friend if you win. And that's it for today. Have a great day. And I'm your host, Mikey from the Crochet Crowd. Bye-bye now.